Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Celtics have the best team. The Mavericks have the best player, and now they meet in the NBA Finals. And I just want people to be honest about being annoyed with Caitlin Clark.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
For the first time in his career, Luka Doncic will lead the Dallas Mavericks into the NBA Finals, but they are heavy underdogs. Can they pull off the upset?
One of my things about how the Celtics will guard Luka is in the March 1st matchup, at least, and in the matchups in the regular season, they allowed any switch. And if they're going to allow any switch, my thing is, does Luka all of a sudden start playing some guys into submission to where you go, hey, I don't know if we can play Peyton Pritchard if Luka is on the court. I don't know if we can play, like Al Horford's looking pretty old and he's running past him every time. I mean, I'm curious if that happens, then all of a sudden they start taking things away, because that started to happen to the Thunder a little bit.
So the number one thing that I talked to Joe Mazzulla about was not adjusting to the result. And that's a very difficult thing to do. You have to adjust to what's deviating from the game plan versus following the game plan and them still hitting shots anyway. So part of the game plan and part of the plan to defend Luka Doncic to me is defending with your offense. I'm saying that this is going to be my favorite phrase over the next 2 weeks. Defend Luka with your offense by putting him in every action, by forcing him to defend. And either you're going to say, hey, well, he is defending well. Okay, great. Make him work really hard. And then maybe he fades a little bit, because if you're single covering him and you're making him work really hard on defense, that's a hell of a workload for playoff minutes, 43, 44 playoff minutes, somewhere in that low 40 minutes range. By the fourth quarter, that anybody's going to get tired. So it's not a shot at Luka. It's just, if you're working that hard on both ends of the floor, you're going to fade. And that's what I hope for anyway. So part of my plan is the both end thing. So if you are putting him in all the actions, and if he is working hard to defend, then you deal with it. If he's not working hard to defend and he's blowing by you, then great. Now you're drawing help and you're kicking and you're shooting. And it's going to be a ton of 3-pointers and all of that stuff. And so be it. Like, you're just going to score a bunch of points and then you deal with him on the other end. But I'm not going to worry about if they are single covering him the majority of the time. I'm not going to worry about him hitting tough shots. I'm also going to try not to feed him Peyton Pritchard. I'm going to try not to do that.
They did in that last game. They fed him right away. And I was like, oh man, this may not go well for you.
But if you're drawing him into tough twos, and it's not 3-pointers and it's not kickouts to corner threes for other guys, if you're just drawing him into tough twos and he's not racking up assists, then I will live with it. I will live with it and fall into the concept of, it's a 48-minute game. And as long as you are ahead when that 48th minute elapses versus the first 47 minutes and 59 seconds, all that matters is that final second. So deal with it for however long you have to deal with it, and then figure out a way to make your run, and hopefully he gets tired, or hopefully something happens, or that fatigue leads to a mistake and maybe a few turnovers in the fourth quarter that are uncharacteristic, that you can capitalize on. That's the thing. And you know what? The other part of that, living with it is, it's a 7-game series. So if the plan doesn't work in a couple of games, it's still okay if you look at the numbers. If he's outperforming the expected shot, points per shot, you deal with it and you say, it's a 7-game series. Can he do it 4 out of 7 times? You got to figure it out. So that's where I'm leaning on. It's a long-term play, and it's just, I feel like the Celtics have enough horses to pull it out in the end.
The Mavs are the ones with the horses. I just want you to know that's like
that's the thing. That's their thing.
champ is the I don't think this is a ridiculous plan. I mean, the coach of the year in the NBA came up with like this is the plan that the Thunder uses. So if anybody's in the comments going, oh, what a ridiculous, stupid thing, like there are no true answers against Luka. He has the most answers of any offensive player in the NBA. And so to try that, like I think that's an admirable reason. And I think that there are so many other worse ways that you could try to defend Luka.
It's not stopping Luka. It's, can you have him make 2 or 3 fewer assists and hit 2 or 3 fewer buckets? That's 8 to 9 points that are going away via assists, or I would say 6 to 9 points are going away via assists, and like 6 points going away via scoring. If you could just combine that 12 points, just take 12 points away. That right there, boom, you're done. You win. Like, and it's just 2 buckets, 2 assists. That's it. That's 8 points. I'll take the 8 points away. I'll take it.
Stay up to date on the Dallas Mavericks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Mavericks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Celtics represent the Eastern Conference. Before we get to that, the New York Yankees are on fire right now. It's winner take all in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. The NBA Finals are set with the Mavericks and Celtics facing off this week. Right now, the Celtics minus 225 to win the whole series. Mavericks plus 188 to win the title. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're catching this episode of Locked On Sports Today after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. The New York Yankees are one of the hottest teams in baseball right now with a league-high 5-game win streak, and they're about to get better. Ace Garrett Cole is set to make his first rehab start tomorrow. Cole has yet to play this season. The Buffalo Bills made some questionable roster moves this past offseason, or at least some moves that had people scratching their head a little bit. Now they're trying to get creative. The team announced this weekend that they're signing Olympic gold medalist wrestler Gable Stevenson to try playing on the defensive line. Hey, if you can't find the right players, you may be looking in the wrong places. I applaud their effort. The Sacramento Kings have agreed to a contract extension with head coach Mike Brown that will keep him in Sacramento through the 2026-2027 season.
With this contract extension, Mike Brown is the first coach since Rick Adelman to receive a second contract. You know how insane that is? Not just the first coach to actually make the playoffs and end the 16-year playoff drought. 11 other coaches could not make the playoffs here in Sacramento. But not only that, 11 other coaches couldn't even get to a second deal. And that's not a poor reflection on the coaches. That looks worse for the Kings organization.
And the San Francisco Giants will likely once again be without 2023 Cy Young winner Blake Snell after he exited yesterday's game with tightness in his groin. Snell missed time earlier this season with the same injury and is yet to make it through a 5-inning stretch of a game this season. It's been a decade and a half since the Celtics have last hosted the Larry O'Brien Trophy. If that makes you feel old, you're not alone. Can Jason Tatum, who is not old, add his name to the list of star players to win for the storied franchise?
My 2 biggest questions of these finals: who does Luka Doncic defend, and who does Kyrie Irving defend? If you've got good answers for that, you got a good chance. But I don't know what those are.
It's tough. It's definitely tough because you can't make it the same way that it was against some of the other series where Luka's guarding Jaden McDaniels, Luka's guarding Lou Dort, Luka's guarding, Josh Giddey, and he's just kind of sagging off of some of those guys and allowed to be in passing lanes and help. And Luka and Kyrie have been the top players for the Mavs in deflections and all that kind of stuff. I think the answer is the Mavs will switch. The Mavs will allow the Celtics to move the ball around, and they have this rotating scheme defense where everybody kind of guards everybody at a certain point because you're rotating around. You're allowing the ball handler to get into the lane and like kind of usher them into help. And then all of a sudden everybody behind you has to rotate and find exactly the person that they're supposed to be. And this defense has really worked because the Mavs are all in lockstep. They're all connected. And so I think the answer is not a very good one, but Luka will guard everybody at a certain point. Mm-hmm. He's guarded Kawhi, he's guarded SGA, he's guarded Jalen Williams, like he's guarded Anthony Edwards. At some point during that, he has guarded all of them. It's just he doesn't have to do it every single possession, which I think is something that the Clippers tried to do, where they tried to just get Luka switched onto Harden every single time and just try and wear him down every single time. Luka was dealing with the knee a little bit worse than he is right now, and so that has been an issue for him. But it's a bad answer, but like he's going to guard everybody at a certain point, but he'll probably start on like Derek White or Drew Holiday.
And then, so I assume that Kyrie's on one of those guys too, right? Like there's no, when you're starting Tatum and Brown and those other, White and Holiday, and then presumably Porzingis, right? Yeah. So it's pretty obvious, right? Like you can't start either of those two guys on Tatum or Brown, because you're going to really, unless you're just giving up you're going to say, hey, we'll give up the mismatch and try to draw the Celtics into an isolation.
What I said on the first one, what the Mavs tried to do against the Thunder was they put PJ Washington on Chet, and then they put Lively or Gafford guarding a Lou Dort, a Josh Giddey, and Aaron Wiggins, somebody else, so that they can pull back and then they can defend the paint, and they can roam around and defend the paint. And then you just have to make sure that you help quick enough and recognize when they're going to go to that open guy in the corner. I don't think they can do that against the Celtics, but if they did try to do that, I think they'd probably put Luka on. They'd probably put Luka on Porzingis and have him try and guard him at least on the 3-point line. And then, I mean, is Porzingis going to back Luka all the way down in the paint? Like, I don't think so. So at least have him guard him on the 3-point line. Have Chet have Lively or Gafford guarding one of the other
trade before the finals. Yeah. Oh my God.
Having them guard one of the other guards, and then have obviously PJ and Derek Jones Jr. on the 2 Js. And so maybe they'll try that kind of version, but we haven't seen the same kind of defensive thing for the Mavs in 2 series in a row because teams are giving them different things.
Yeah. I just feel like no matter where you put, so I would say having him guard Porzingis to start makes sense, but you're just going to have Porzingis come up and set a pick for Tatum, right? Or Jalen, and just try to work that switch. You said it though. It's not like the Mavs want to prevent teams from getting into the paint. It's like, no, please
they want them.
Get into the paint because we've got 2 guys that are going to block, like super athletic, big time, shot blocking. So you think you got a guy beat, and it's exactly where you want to be, where you want them to be.
But only if their guy is there. If he's out guarding KP on the 3-point line. This is one of the things when I was watching back the March 1st game, and the Mavs defense is completely different than it was then, but Lively is out there guarding Porzingis, and so he's then trying to hedge into the paint a little bit to try and stop, whoever it is, PJ ushering Jason Tatum into the lane, and he gets behind the play, and all of a sudden there's a wide open 3 from somebody because of that. And the Mavs had the benefit of having Rudy Gobert and having Towns, who didn't really space the floor that much when Gobert was out. They didn't really embrace the 5-out system like the Celtics obviously do. And so they had the center just waiting there every single possession over and over again. And then the scheme I talked about earlier that they did against OKC was why they had a center waiting there every single time. So the Mavs are going to have to figure this out because they have not faced a 5-out offense quite like the Celtics yet, because there isn't one. They faced
a good offense, but not a great defense. And then they face a great defense, but not a great offense. Now you're facing top 2, both. Well,
the Thunder were both. The Thunder were top 5 in both.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the Celtics are the most well-rounded. Sure. They don't have the Josh Giddey weakness. They don't have that spot. And this is where I think this leaning on, hey, well, we just beat the OKC and you just beat Minnesota. And it's yeah, that's great. But you're not facing the same level of, okay, who do you attack defensively? Who's the weak point that you attack defensively? Who do you leave on defense to help? That's who are you most willing? Honestly, here's an honest question. If you're going to leave anybody to help, who are you leaving on the Boston offense?
Yeah, if you're leaving them for a 3, there's not a great answer, but it's probably Derek White.
Which,
right?
yeah.
Like, because you're not leaving Drew Holiday open in the corners. That's for sure. He's been insane from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, there's not a great answer. John, do you want me to just say the Celtics are good? I'll say that. Like,
Say it.
Tell me we're good.
Feed my soul.
Tell me we're the best one. They have not faced an offense like this. They have not faced a 3-point shooting team like this since they last played the Celtics in March, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Thunder had Giddey and Dort and guys like that and other guys that you don't have to worry about driving even. Like, you're not worried about Aaron Wiggins driving or Isaiah Joe driving that much.
Yeah.
They faced the Timberwolves, where you're not worried about, well, they weren't worried about Jaden McDaniels, and then he hit a bunch of threes in the first couple of games, but you're not worried about Gobert doing anything besides maybe like catching the ball, but only if it's right in front of the rim and right like near his hands and like it's exactly right in the right place and he catches it and puts it down. So they're facing a team now that doesn't have the weaknesses to exploit defensively like they had in the past. And I think that's something the Mavs are going to have to figure out. The scheme's going to have to figure out, and they're really just going to have to be on top of it, because the scheme can cover a lot of things. Because if you can, usher to help, and then all of a sudden you've got everybody rotating. If you rotate right, you're at least going to make the Celtics take contested shots. You're just trying to avoid them taking these wide open shots over and over again.
Stay up to date on the Boston Celtics all year by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, what is going on with the WNBA and Caitlin Clark? Clark is already one of the biggest names in WNBA history, and that has likely rubbed some people the wrong way. I wish they would just be honest about it. I just want everyone to be honest. Caitlin Clark is the most famous basketball player in the world in the women's game, but she's also become the most polarizing. Not among mainstream fans, by the way. She's still got a Q rating that in women's basketball terms makes her Taylor Swift. But there is a sect of media that covers the NBA. And let's keep it all the way 100 on this. Clearly, a group of players who don't like her, don't like the hype or the view of her as someone worth targeting, because she's the player everyone is talking about right now. Hype drives hate. Late in the third quarter of a game over the weekend between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever, Kennedy Carter hip-checked Clark after yelling obscenities at her. Clark talks trash. She plays physically. And critics of hers will point out all of those things as if it somehow negates the cheap shots that she's facing seemingly on a nightly basis. But you know what? I don't even care about those. Not really. The idea that the media is coddling or infantilizing Clark probably has some merit. But the premise that the rest of the league views her as just another player doesn't pass muster. Becky Hammond and Asia Wilson can say whatever they want. Diana Taurasi can walk back her reality is coming talk. And they have, because they know Clark is the goose that lays the golden eggs right now. But we see it. We see what happens on the court. We see it in a way for Clark that it doesn't happen for everyone else. Just be honest. That's all I want. The book on Steph Curry, the player most compared to Clark, has always been be physical with him. The late 2000 Celtics will tell you that they could get inside LeBron's head, that their physical, tenacious play could rattle him. There's a book based on the dedicated name for the way the Pistons played Michael Jordan and the brutalizing, the cheap shots. That was the whole point. They were honest about it. More, they were proud of it. Think about it this way. What if other musical acts could say all the right things in the media about Taylor Swift, but then hard foul her on their records? How many would? How many harbor resentment that a pretty skinny white girl from Pennsylvania commandeered country, then pop music, when no one would accuse her of being the most talented singer in the world? Nor is her personal poppy style groundbreaking. Kennedy Carter actually did kind of say this about Caitlin Clark when she said, other than threes, what does she really even do? That's not to say Swift isn't an outstanding artist. She's one of one. She truly is. Don't come for me, Swifties. But if I were a contemporary artist, I would understand the feeling. I would wonder why her, too, at least a little. There is something that makes her special. Just like Clark's logo ball threes and virtuoso passing feel different, even if she's not the most complete women's player to ever walk the earth. And she's not. But Beyonce doesn't benefit from saying anything bad about Swift. Neither does Miranda Lambert or Olivia Rodrigo. Do you think they've never wanted to write some subtle shade in their lyrics about it, though? But you know why they don't? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. If people want to go to a Taylor Swift concert or a movie and there isn't one out, maybe they'll go see Ariana Grande's latest show or a Dua Lipa movie if she puts one out. The difference is music isn't sports. They're not competing directly with one another the same way. Taylor Swift fans can listen to Dua Lipa and love her too, but the Sky and the Fever can't both win. It's zero sum. That raises the stakes, but that's where the hypocrisy comes back around. The rest of the league, they know Clark is the gravy train, and they want that train pulling into the station. They just don't have to like it. And because they play sports, they can actually do something about it. And to be honest, I'm totally fine with it. I just want them to be honest about what it is. And it's different for Caitlin Clark. And finally, as if it wasn't hard enough to be an Atlanta Falcons fan in recent years, the NFL is expected to come to a ruling this week on the alleged tampering between the Falcons and Kirk Cousins. Rumored punishments are bringing Arthur Smith back as head coach or rewatching the second half of Super Bowl 51. Falcons fans have to choose. Sorry, guys. If you're catching this episode or hearing, if you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we are here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, it's Luka Doncic against Jason Tatum. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.